Hey everyone, welcome back to another session. This is session number 3. We are talking about mastering productivity, how a leading Asana specialist uses Asana. And so this session is brought to you by a good friend of mine, Bastien Siebman, who is an Asana expert in France, but has made his name known internationally. So if you spend any time on the Asana forum, or on LinkedIn or on YouTube, you would have seen his face, heard his voice, read his blogs, used his free tools that he makes available to people all around productivity and efficiency and how we can streamline our Asana usage. And because of the time zone, Bastien was here for our panel discussion this morning. He's not actually in person today. He has pre-recorded his session, and so I'm going to be playing that for you in a minute here. And so I hope you're excited about that. Just a few housekeeping things. If this is the first session and you're joining us for the first time today, welcome to Asanathon 2023. We're so glad that you're here and able to join us. It's always been a dream of mine to create a space where like-minded, ops-minded people can come together and connect and ask questions. And today we're focusing on one of the tools that we all know, and we either love it or we just have to use it. And so we're just happy that we can create a space where we can talk about it, talk about productivity and how we can better use, one of the tools that we use every single day in our different teams and our companies. And so just a reminder for participation's sake, anytime you ask a question, put a comment in the chat, raise your hand, send an emoji, or upvote one of the other questions that have been asked, you will gain points. And so what these points will do is we have a leaderboard where we're tracking all day just how engagement is going. And so Jacob is still in the lead at 365 points. And then we have two Maries that are taking the second and third place. And so this just shows engagement. And for the people that are most engaged today, they'll be receiving prizes. So the prizes include Asana templates that you can implement into your Asana space and further customize around onboarding and social media content management. And one of the prizes as well is going to be a 60-minute consultation with myself and your team. So bring your problems, bring your questions. I'd love to help you work through those. So please engage. It's by you engaging that we're able to make this event fun and lively for other people. So as we're getting started here, I'd love to know where everyone is from. If you can put in the chat what city, what country you're from, would love to know how you got here, what you're hoping to get out of this, and as it relates to this session, why you're here today. What are you hoping to get out of this? Just go ahead and put that in the chat so that I can see those messages coming through. Joining because technical difficulties, looking forward to connecting with you all. Yes, so I will address this as well. If this is the first session you're joining because you couldn't get into our panel discussion this morning, I apologize. It has since been resolved, but there were quite a few of you knocking on the virtual door and we were just ignoring you, not on purpose. There was a technical difficulty with the platform we're using today, and so it's been resolved, but all the recordings will be available after the event. And also, we want interaction again. So if you have a question today, please use the Q&A function to ask that question so that others can see what's being asked and they can upvote that. Any general comments can just be shared inside of the group chat. This event is sponsored by the System Builder Academy as well. The System Builder Academy is a place where ops-minded professionals can come together to learn more about the tools we use every day, chat about productivity, and really just how we can work better. So head over to systembuilderacademy.com to register for your free seat. So without more further ado, I'm going to play our video here today. One thing that I will say is that you will need to full screen the video to see it in its best quality. And then I will be hopping on at the end of the video just to take some questions, and then we will talk next steps and get into our next session as well. So I will be handing it over to Bastien here in a minute to take it away. Video is just coming up now.
Hello everyone, my name is Bastian. I'm a long-time Asana user. I've been using Asana for about 10 years now. And that passion for Asana actually led me to create a company called iDo, which is an Asana solutions partner. So our job is to help people use Asana the best way possible. We are a team of about a dozen people, and we use Asana daily, and we use it heavily, and we go very, very far in terms of the way we use Asana. And this is what I wanted to talk about today, show you how people like us actually use Asana to do the work that we do almost every day. I want to focus on specific use cases. I want to talk about how we use Asana as a CRM. I want to talk to you about how we use Asana to manage the content that we create for different channels. I want to talk about how we organize the different forms that we've created within the company, how we actually map out all the processes we're working with. We also invented something we call the newsfeed. I want to share that with you. And finally, I want to talk about something we created called Nestor. And those are the key takeaways for the end. I'm going to save this as the default one. All right, cool. I'm using the demo space that we have created. That demo space recreates almost exactly what we have in our own space. It's usually a bit simpler in the demo space, but be assured that what I'm going to show you today is something that we actually use in our own space. Let's start with the CRM. This is something I am so proud of, which is our ability to actually manage all the leads and clients that we have directly within Asana. We have done an entire webinar on the topic. I just want to emphasize that Asana is not a CRM. We just use Asana as a CRM. You might want to use HubSpot. You might want to use Pipedrive if you want to go a bit beyond. But if you only need very simple features, just like us, I think Asana is a great CRM. So let's have a look at what it means to use Asana as a CRM. Basically, this is the project that we have. We have a sales funnel where we have all the leads and clients as tasks. We have a way to manage all the different contacts, all the different sessions. We also have quotes and invoices directly embedded into Asana. And we have a knowledge base to store anything related to sales. And then, as you'll see, some of the leads that become clients actually get promoted to a project where we can organize the work we have with them. Let's start with the sales funnel. This is where everything starts. We have one task for each lead. Every single lead, we have a task. When a lead becomes a client, it also becomes a project. I'm going to show you at the end. So basically what we have here is a list of tasks going through different stages. And those stages are sections. They could also be, actually they are drop down in that case. They could be sections. It's really up to you to decide what you want to do. A lead has a different of custom fields. You have info about the identity of the client. You have info about the country they live in, their address, their VAT number, the tier you put them in. There's really a lot of things around who is the client. Sorry, closing the window. And we use the description to store everything that we got from the introductory call. We usually have an intro call with the clients and we try to map out all of those questions and answer everything. We also have within that description, because that task comes from a task template, that's the one. So we have the same structure for everything. And in that description, we have what we call sales enablement, which is links to tasks we have within the knowledge base, that's the one, with a list of things we might need when we are on the call. The goal there is to really be very fast in retrieving information. And then we use subtasks to track contact that we have, to track actions, and we also track the different meetings that we have. I don't have an example right there, but we usually have the intro call being stored as a subtask as well. So those tasks go through the funnel and then hopefully they become a client. That's the case with Best Buy. Best Buy is a task, but once they become a customer, they also become a project. This is what you see there. That's the Best Buy project. If I open the project, this project is based on a template. Again, we templatize everything. The Best Buy task sits at the top of the Best Buy project. So we really merge those two concepts together that allows us to navigate between the different levels easily. If you are on the task, you can easily go to the project and the other way around. A project for us in the CRM always looks the same way. We have different sections to store the different packages that we've sold to the client. We have something around licenses because we sell licenses as well. And we have something predefined for the end of the session. Our actual template became a bit bigger and more complex over time. But for the demo environment, we decided to keep things simple. As you can see, we are using emojis quite a lot. We barely use colors. You can see colors there because they actually have a very specific meaning. But overall, we don't use colors that much. We reuse emoji. I think they are better at communicating information. They are great at allowing you to convey the information of what the task type is. For example, in a bundle like this about private sessions, we know by just looking at this that this is a quote because we have the quote emoji. We know that this is an invoice because you have the invoice emoji, and we know that this is a meeting because of the meeting emoji. Asana doesn't have a task type, so we had to find a way to make it obvious, and we decided to use emojis for this. So basically, we have one quote, 2 invoices, and 2 meetings. And as you can see, there's a project column here, which is the native project column. That means each one of those tasks is actually multi-homed elsewhere. So if I go into the quotes project, you will be able to see all the quotes we have from all the different projects and all the different clients. And you can see there the project column. Some of those are quotes on leads. That's why they are subtasks. And some of those are quotes for clients. That's why you have a project there being displayed. And adding a task to the quote project allows you to have access to those columns. The quote amount column, the purchase type, the status, all of this comes from multi-homing the task in the column. If I go multi-homing the task in the project, if I go back here and I open the quote, so I'm within the Best Buy project, you can see that it pulled up those fields from the actual quote project. And this is a concept we use a lot. We multi-home things into projects that group all the same tasks together, and we have custom fields attached to those projects. So we're really pulling those custom fields to us. That's a very powerful thing we do. So basically that's the CRM. We have the funnel, the leads as tasks go through the different steps, and when they end up being a client, a project is created and the task is actually multi-homed within the project. Let me go back here. We talked about the CRM. Let's go to my second favorite topic, which is Content Factory. As an Asana consultant, as a team, as an agency, we decided to create a lot of content. And we create videos, we create posts, we post on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on the Asana forum. We just post everywhere. We have newsletters as well. We have several LinkedIn accounts. So we needed a way to manage everything. And we used a content factory within Asana to do this. So basically that's what a simpler version of our content factory looks like. We have one task for each ID, each content, each piece of content, and that task goes into different stages, just like before. So they start as an ID, and then they go into the creation process, and when they're ready, they go into the ready state where they can be published to different channels. Let's say, for example, this one. When you're overwhelmed, start with one source. This is something I would like to write. We have a predefined description. We write things in 2 languages, English and French. So we pre-built the description to host the text for those 2 languages. So when we decide, when the content committee, when the marketing team gets together, they decide that this idea is a good one and we want to promote that idea and actually go through the creation process. So for example, this is another one that we've been working on in the demo space. And this is where you would write down, obviously not this lorem ipsum, but you would actually write down the content as English and French. And you can also actually shoot videos if you want to. So everything is done on one single task. And we have a lot of automation to create subtasks and stuff like this. So for example, when you go into the creation process, you have a write the content subtask that gets created. Then when everything is ready, you move into the ready state. And when you move into the ready state, you can say that everything is ready. And when that's the case, we create subtasks for each of the channel we publish on. That could be TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, the forum, whatever we want. It is super important for us to have one task for the content. That's the one you have there on the right, but also one task for every channel we publish that piece of content on. The reason is simple. We don't always publish a content on each platform all at once. We usually have different dates. Also, the same people, different people deal with different channels. We have someone dealing with LinkedIn, someone dealing with YouTube. So you might want to delegate things differently to different people. And sometimes, in our case, the French version is ready before the English version. So you want some channels, but not the others. So you really want to track things differently. That's why we're using subtasks. And if you open the subtasks, there's two important things. You can see that the task is actually multi-homed into a content calendar. I'm going to show you in a moment. And then one task is multi-homed into a channel project. In that case, that's obviously a problem. That should be TikTok, but you get the point. If you go into the Instagram project, this is where you're going to see all the posts we want to do on Instagram. If you go to the LinkedIn project, it's the same. You have everything related to LinkedIn. And as you know, each project in Asana has different layouts and you have a calendar view. So that means you could see all the content you planned on publishing on that specific channel. If I go back, if I go 2 steps back and I go back on this subtask, you can see also that the subtask is multi-homed into a content calendar. And if I go into the content calendar, that's basically all the content we want to publish on any channel that we're working on. And we're using colors to identify which which channel it is. So blue is LinkedIn, red is YouTube, etc., etc. And then you can use a content calendar like this to really make sure that you publish on the same channel at the same pace. For example, you could have every Monday that's LinkedIn, every Tuesday that's YouTube. It is really made easier by using a calendar like this. So that's basically the content factory. Our own content factory is a bit more advanced. The main difference is we have way more channels than the one you see there. We also made a difference between video and text. So we have different processes for video and text, even though we still have one main task for each piece of content. But overall, that works the same way and it works quite well. So let me go back here. That's the content factory. The next topic is the forms. Each project has the ability to have a form. The problem is, at the moment, there's no way to get a list of all the forms you've created in Asana. So it's really hard to keep track of where the forms are, which project they are attached to, what are the links to actually get to that form, what are the links that you can share with someone to use the form. So to answer this problem, we decided to create a project called Forms Directory. So if I go to this project, Forms Directory, this is basically a list of all the forms we have created. So again, that's a demo space, but we have exactly the same thing on our end. We did not anticipate how useful it was going to be. It is super useful. And we really ended up with a ton of forms. I can look at the forms we have on my other screen, but I think right now we just have a lot of forms. That's crazy. We have 49 forms. Yeah, it's crazy because we have forms in English, forms in French. We have one for each product. So things started to get crazy. That's why having a directory like this, an index, is really handy. So basically you group things together by theme, by topic. Anything related to IT is grouped together. And then you have a custom field for the actual link to the form. One thing you could also do is, it's something that we do in our own space, is have a link there to the actual project hosting the form. Because sometimes you want to go to the form, you want to add a question, you want to change something. So you could also use that list as a way to reach the forms project, because sometimes you don't remember the name of the project, because the name of the project doesn't always match the name of the form. So this is something you might want to do as well. If you go, I think I have, if you go into HR, we have applicant tracking system, that's the one. And there we have a form. Let's have a look at one form, for example. That's the form. Here we are. That's an example of a form that you could use. So that's a form to gather applications from candidates. You can ask them a couple of questions, and that will create a task as a result. And then that task could be dealt with. You could assign that task to someone specifically. You could have automation to create subtasks as approval. And this is things that we've built into that project as well. I'm going to show you in a second. Also, one thing that's quite powerful within Form is the ability to have branches. So for example, here, when you ask them where they come from, what's the source of their application, you have different options. If they say it's a referral, you can ask them who the referral was. If they come from a job board, you can ask them which job board, so you can really tailor the question to the actual answers that were given to you. This is something really powerful. And again, you always have that copy link giving you the public link, but you don't want to always come to the editor to get the link. Second thing is, you don't always want people to be able to come to the project. And sometimes you want people to be able to just get the link. For example, if you work from HR, there's no reason for anyone else than HR people to come and have a look at the project. And potentially they can't, that shouldn't be allowed. So that project might be private. So you need a way to document all the forms link that you have, and creating a forms directory is probably a very good idea. Because we're touching on forms, I just want to continue a little bit. So in that case, we have different rules running. So for example, when a new application comes in, it goes at the top there in the first section. It requires HR approval, which is given through a drop-down like this. And as soon as it's being approved by HR, it moves into the next section to be approved by the manager. As soon as it's being approved by the manager, it moves to the next section, which is the interview. And all the way we create subtasks, and we have a subtask for approval, for example, a subtask for the interview, and it's always assigned to the right person, to the person actually doing the work. So everything is really being streamlined. For the most hardcore user out there, just so you know, at the moment, there is no way to tie the completion of a subtask like this to a change at the task level. So this step is still a manual step, and this is something we hope that we will be able to fix in the upcoming weeks or month, hopefully. And then depending on the answers given, it either goes to the offer section and then it's accepted, or it goes into the rejection section. That's it. That's the way we use forms. And again, if I go back to the forms directory, this is very handy. The challenge with something like this is to make sure it stays up to date. Because the thing is, if you create this on day one, and if you don't maintain this, then people know that it's not maintained, it's not up to date, and they don't want to rely on it, and then things start falling through the cracks. So that's really hard. That means you have to make it super obvious to everyone that this is the source of truth. This is where you go to find a form. And if a form is not there, people need to add the form there. So you might have to emphasize this again and again and again for a long period of time if you really want this to be deeply ingrained into your team's mind. But it's completely worth it, in my opinion. That's the forms directory. Let's look at processes. A company has a ton of processes. There are things you do over and over again. Some of those will become project templates. Some of those will become task templates, which is a great way to store a process. Instead of documenting something, why not just create a project template and document all the steps? But not everything falls into those two categories. Not everything can become a project template. There's a lot of things that are just flat list of things to do whenever you need something, like how you hire someone. That could be a job down, but there's a lot of other processes you might want to document. We started using Asana to document these processes. For example, when I create a new app for the Asana App Store, there's a list of things I have to check. I don't want to have an entire project template for this. I just want somewhere to list a list of things to do. That's why we created a project called Processes. So again, same concept, one task for each piece of information. Those tasks are stored into different sections. For example, how do you find a client logo? Which type of logo should you find? For example, what should be the format? How should you reduce those logos? How do you translate content? How do you create a new piece of content in the content factory? How does Dustin track his time? We're working with Dustin as a freelancer. How does he track his time? Does he use Toggle on his end? Does he use Asana? How does Justin works? This is the kind of stuff you might want to document. So in addition to having the actual description of the process, what we've added in our own space is a status. We want to see what's the status of this process. So for example, the process could be stable. It's being used, it's working, everything has been defined, it's fine. The process could be broken. There's something broken, so you want to make it super obvious in that case. Maybe the process works, but it needs improvement. And you might want to document that it needs improvement to be able to find the processes to improve when you have a moment to work on this. Maybe it's on standby and maybe you're working on it and maybe it has been discontinued. So to us, this has been very pivotal to the way we work. And again, I can look at my own screen so you can't see, but you have to trust me. I just want to look. We currently have 170 processes in our company. And all the time tracking thing we have. Also, we have something around payroll. How do you pay Dustin? How do you pay Justin? What's the account? Which currency? When do you pay him? When does he send an invoice? All of that stuff is very important. How do you send a Zoom recording? Which steps do you follow? How do you configure Zoom when you start working with us? All of that is documented and we have a lot of steps. In addition to the status, we also wanted to document who's involved within the team. And that goes hand in hand with the other columns. How often do we do that process? We try, it's really hard, but we try to maintain this information. Do we do this thing once a month? Do we do this thing 20 times a month? And in addition to how often we do this, how long does it take to do this? If you do something once a month, it takes 5 minutes. No reason to improve. If you do something 20 times a month and it takes 10 minutes, you really have to spend some time on improving the processes if you can. And by doing this, by doing the who is involved and how much, how often and how long does it take, you can start drawing a picture of who's spending the most time on processes. And this is something you might want to optimize. In our case, we're working with an assistant. So there are a couple of things we can delegate to her or him because we have two assistants. And mapping those processes allowed us to say, okay, check in with clients. This is now stable. Can you, Julie, that's our assistant, can you please take care of this now? This is something we do 15 times a month. It takes about 5 minutes each time. I really want to delegate this to you. Having this really allows you to find processes you have to optimize to really save time. So this is something you might want to build for yourself. I know some people use Notion to document processes. You can also use Process Street if you want. In our case, we really wanted to make sure that everything stays within one single tool, which is obviously Asana in that case. Also, what's very interesting is the ability to reference those tasks. For example, let's say I'm going to copy this link. Okay, I can create a task for myself that says check in with clients. I can have like a little emoji to make it obvious that this is something recurring. I can say that it's recurring and I want to do that, I don't know, every Thursday. And I can link, where did it go? Is it gone? Okay, let's recreate it, it's fine. New task, check in with clients, that's recurring. And then in the description, you paste the link to the process. So when you have this task assigned to you, then every time the task pops up, you have a link to the process. And we've done this in a lot of tasks. Very often where something has to be done and has been documented, we place a link to that actual process. So that works really well. That was processes. We had another challenge recently, which was our ability to share information with the team. We have a WhatsApp group, but WhatsApp is more for urgent stuff or good news. We try not to use WhatsApp for everything. And sometimes there's things you want to share with the team. A new client that signs is a good news. So usually it goes into WhatsApp, but maybe you created a new process. Maybe you change the way the content factory works. This is something you want to share with your team. So we created something called Newsfeed. If you go into Newsfeed, that's basically a project where the entire team is invited on. If I click on there, you can see all the people from the team. And then we have a form or a task template to actually create a new item. So we decided there to document the way it works. So it's either a form or a task template. And you can also create a task outside of the project and just multi-home into the project. And basically you just document everything that you have to do, like the info you want to pass on to the rest of the team. And you can have automation to actually add collaborators when something is created. So for example, when the task is moved to this section, we add the entire team as collaborators. That allows us to really have a discussion on the task and react to whatever was said. To us, that's a great way to share information in an asynchronous way. We love Slack, we love WhatsApp, but those are synchronous. Those will interrupt people in the way they work in their workflow. Very often for news like this, we don't want to interrupt everyone. And let's face it, we don't send each other emails. Obviously, we do everything in Asana. So we thought it would be good to actually do this directly into Asana. So that's the newsfeed, and we use this quite often. And again, I can check how many times we did. But if I look at our own newsfeed, we have about 200 news that was shared with the team. So it's working pretty well. This is also something you can refer back to if you want. It's all available through the search anyway. So if you're searching for, I don't know, SWOT analysis, you will end up on the newsfeed info that was shared with the team. That works well. The last one is a very exciting one. This is something we've built using native capability within Asana. I'm just going to show you, and you'll get it right away. If you go into our CRM, let's say we're working with Chanel, we have created this button, and this service is called Nestor. So this is really embedded into Asana. This is called an app component, and this is something we can help you build if you want to. In that case, Nestor does the following. If I click on send an email, so again, this is completely within Asana. If I click there, I have the ability to choose the language. So we work in English, and I can choose from a list of templates of email templates we've created. For example, we just had a training and I want to see how they like the training. So I'm choosing the email template. I can choose who from the team is sending the email. So if I'm an assistant, I could say, okay, I'm going to send something on behalf of Bastian, and it's going to look like he's the one sending the email. I'm writing to, we're working with Xavier at Chanel, and I also want Brian to be in CC of this. And this email has been pre-populated. This comes from templates that we've built. You can also get attachment from the task itself. And then when you click on submit, it actually sends an email using our email provider. In that case, the email will come from me. My signature will be attached automatically. And also that text, that comment will be posted on the task itself. So there on the task, you will see a comment pop up. So basically we kind of solved the issue of sending emails from Asana to someone. This has been really, really handy. We've used this with our clients as well. Some of them have the Nestor app into their account, and I'm just checking our stats. It's allowed to send about 500 emails so far. So if you say that if you save about 30 seconds per email by using a tool like this, we just saved a lot of time, and this is only the beginning. The only thing we're missing is the ability to read answers directly from Asana. This is something I'm trying to think of. It's a bit harder to do. But just so that you know, it's possible to embed something like this within Asana. That's really, really powerful. This is something we are only touching the surface on, and it's really promising. All right, let's go back to the list. So this is Nestor. Let me know if you want to use Nestor in your own account. It has been half an hour. This is super exciting. I really like to show the way we're using Asana as a company, and I hope you got inspired by this. I have a few key takeaways for you. First one, emojis are fun and they are useful as well. Emojis are not for kids. We use emoji everywhere, and they really help you convey information. They help you read a page faster, identify a task type. We use them quite a lot. So really try to do this. If you want to add an emoji, the easiest is to use Control Command Space on a Mac. And you can use the window and the dot key on a PC. So make sure to try. This will give you an emoji keyboard, and you will be able to use this wherever you can type text. It's not related to Asana specifically. Asana has something to do emojis like this, but it only works in comments and description. It doesn't work in task name, doesn't work in project. Our solution works everywhere because it's embedded into your computer. It's just a way to get an emoji keyboard. So emojis are fun and useful. Custom fields and multi-homing are underrated. The more you structure your project with custom fields, the better you will be. You will be able to filter, you will be able to sort, you will be able to have dashboards and run searches. It's just really powerful and really unlocks the potential of Asana. If you use custom fields in combination with multi-homing, that's even better. If you go back to the CRM example, if you take a quote is part of a client's project as well as a quotes project. By going into the quotes project, that's multi-homing. A task is part of several projects. By going into the quotes project, you actually pull to yourself different custom fields. That's really powerful. Finally, we haven't touched on this, but even if I showed you a lot of the ways we're using Asana, my task and inbox are still the most important things you have to master. If you're not using my task, you are completely missing the point. You're completely missing the power of Asana. If you're not using the Asana inbox but read your email, it's the same. It's crazy. Stop the madness. Stop email, disable them, and just go to the Asana inbox. That's way more powerful. And archive stuff that you've read. That's really, really, really important. We can optimize all of this a lot, but in the end, if you do not use my task, if you do not use inbox, it's just completely useless, because the biggest benefit will come from using my task and inbox properly. That's it for today. I hope you found it useful. It was super exciting for me to share all of this with you. Let me know if you have any questions. My name is Bastian. I'm the founder of I Do, an Asana solutions partner. You will see my face everywhere on the forum, on LinkedIn as well. So make sure to reach out if you have any question, and have a good day. Bye.
Wow. I'm just gonna take a minute here. What a great session, man. I wish if we were in person, I'm sure everyone would be standing up right now. What a great session from Bastien. So many takeaways. The chat was sounding off there, just with everyone's thoughts and impressions. And yeah, I'm gonna speak for everybody, where I'm gonna, say that we're super impressed by what Bastien created here today and demoed for us. So thank you all for attending. Thank you for being here. There's lots of takeaways and lots of great questions that came up. So there it is. There's a standing ovation. Ovation. Standing ovation. I don't think I'm saying that word correctly. Anyhow, we've got lots of questions on the screen here, and we've got 20 minutes before our next session. We do want to give you a chance to, take a break and, get some food and whatever it may be. But let's answer some of these questions. How do you add an emoji? See if I can show this one on stage. How do you add an emoji to your task title? Is it just copy and paste? Yeah. So, I'm using a Mac. For me, it's Control Command Spacebar, and then the emoji library pops up. That's how I typically do it. I know that there are now tools you can integrate with Asana that automatically will pull in certain emojis or prefixes or suffixes, whatever you want it to be. There are tools that have been developed that can do that for you, but that's how I do it right now. Great question. Let's see another one. Is it possible to change the task color of the calendar? So she might ask. Yeah, so this is a good question here. What Asana is pulling when it's showing up the calendar is there's a default. So if there's no information, no custom fields, it's just going to be white. But then if you are using a single select custom field, whatever the color of those field types are or field names are, field options, it will show up as that in the calendar. Note that it will not work for multi-select custom fields because it just doesn't support that currently. But yeah, anything that's a single select or any color you've given to any other field will show up in that way. These are great questions. Can the Nestor, oh man, I can't say enough about Nestor. Can the Nestor email functionality be used with rules so that it sends an automatic email if X happens? Shane, I'm sure it can. Bastien, this is why you needed to be here. You need to be here in person. I don't care how late it is in France, but we'll definitely get these questions back to him. I know there are questions about the tool. There was another one about if this can be done with Salesforce. Any of these are custom solutions. So as long as you have a developer who can tap into the API, you can connect Asana to Salesforce, HubSpot, whatever your tool may be. And then I'm sure we can add in functionality in the middle of this to incorporate different rules as well. So yeah, if you want to, Bastien's information should be in the main lounge area, but feel free to reach out to him, LinkedIn, email, it's great. If you have any questions around Nestor, I definitely want Nestor inside of my space. There was one, how do you add Nestor? So yeah, Bastien would have to create that for you, add it to your space as well. And actually, because we're talking about AI a bit this morning and Asana's new take on AI, he had actually created a chat GPT integration a while ago, probably February or March. He created this tool where it was chat GPT inside of your Asana as well. So Bastien's a brain. He's a developer. He's got lots of experience there as well. And so he's always building tools like this and kind of tinkering around. So let me mark that one as answered. I wanted to answer the question around, HubSpot and Asana. So for both me and Bastien, earlier this year, he made the public announcement that they were not using HubSpot anymore. They were using HubSpot as their CRM, and they decided to move off of it to consolidate and do everything in Asana. And as you can see, they've done a great job of doing that, right? Like, who needs another tool when you can develop everything inside of one tool? So I'm all for consolidation. I currently still use HubSpot. And prior to making a change, a very recent change, everything was in there. Sales pipeline was in there. And then there were automated workflows that would create tasks in Asana to notify certain people at certain stages of a deal, let's say as it moves through the pipeline. And then there were tasks in Asana, and then some sales tasks were in HubSpot. Because my thought was that anything related to the sales activity and sales tasks should happen in HubSpot. And then anything outside of that should happen inside of Asana. So there were invoices to be sent, or our project manager or team would have to review the proposal and the goals of an incoming project so we can prepare for the kickoff. So things like that were happening in two different places. But probably a month ago now, we made the official change to remove our sales pipeline from HubSpot, and it's now fully inside of Asana. And so for someone like me, I'm doing all of the sales calls right now. Basically, when a call is booked, using my HubSpot meeting link, we have automation set up that the task or the deal essentially gets created inside of Asana. And then from there, the deal pipeline is managed, right? And as that's updated, it then updates HubSpot as well. So we have our contact records, our company records. That full database is still in HubSpot, but then through using the link custom field, we can connect the contact custom field, contact record URL and the company record URL. And then we also have a custom field for the PandaDoc URL, which is our tool that we use for all of our proposals and documents. And so that's how we're using it right now. There's a lot of Asana native integrations and rules that we're using as well to move things through the pipeline and assign tasks. And in my opinion, it has just changed the way that we work. It's so much faster, so much more streamlined. And yes, of course, there are still use cases and great applications for full-scale CRMs. I used to be one of those people that thought that I needed to know every single data point and every single activity and know the attribution of every single lead and how they first connected with us and how many pages they visited and when they booked that link and how far in the document they got down at that they were reviewing. But the truth is that I wasn't reviewing all that information. What was important to me was connecting with someone, having a human to human conversation, and then providing them with options for how I could help. And so we made the switch to HubSpot, from HubSpot to Asana, and we're currently using both tools. But based on what I've seen today, and I'm having some other conversations with some other developers and efficiency specialists in this space around using tools like N8N and Zapier and Make, right? I think we're in an age right now where we can move away from these big tools, if we're not using them for what they are to be used for, and consolidate and build our own databases and rely on our own information. So those are just my thoughts on the HubSpot Asana integration. But the question was, can this be done in Salesforce or HubSpot? Absolutely, it can. I'm doing it right now. So hope that answers that. What do we got for time? Let's answer a few more questions. Does anyone know if Bastien is using sections here, or if he has fields maybe hidden that he is sorting on? Yeah, good question. This was probably at a point in the video, but likely the rule would state that it's based on the fields. So if there's a sort happening, it's likely just those fields that are going on versus a section. You could create a view by section, but it's likely that he's using the fields to sort in this case. Great question. And I think this is the last one. I'm curious to know more about how he set up that news feed. Yeah, me too. I mean, there's obviously more he can drill down into this. It seemed though like it was just a catch-all project for multi-homed tasks. So things and updates that happen inside of other projects, it looks like they were then multi-homed to the newsfeed project. That's what I understood from it. But if Bastien was here, he would be able to further answer that question. But those are some great questions. All right, I think that's it. Tesby, were there any others that I may have missed? Or
there's one in the chat from Laura Lee, and she was asking, I'm not sure exactly about what, but she's asking, was that a lot of work on your part to set up in Asana? And I would like Laura Lee to maybe elaborate a little bit. I'm pretty sure she was trying to follow up on something you were talking about.
Yeah, a minute ago. Was that a lot of work to set up? It was. So I think the biggest thing, if we're talking about the Asana, HubSpot transfer to Asana for the sales pipeline, um, because I had created the rules or automations inside of HubSpot already, I had a lot of the text, I had a lot of the variables. It was just about recreating them inside of Asana. So all of the custom fields, and I think that was the most complicated part, was taking all of the relevant contact properties, company properties, and deal properties that exist in HubSpot and rebuilding them inside of Asana in custom fields, and then creating all the rules, adding in all the messaging, because then you have to think about all the subtasks that you're adding in as the deal moves through the pipeline. What does the timing look like? Bastian showed that he has a button for certain things as well. So anytime that I have an initial like connect call, I press a button that says connect call, and then a subtask is created where I can have all my connect call or info call notes, and that's connected to that parent task. So yeah, I think with any of these things, it's safe to assume that it's going to take some time. It's going to take some thinking and testing, and I'm still iterating and changing it. But the important point to drive home is that you spend the time, you do it right once, and you never have to do it again. So I would encourage you, if you have the resources and the time, play around with it, or reach out to Bastien or myself or any of the other Asana experts, and we'd be happy to answer any questions and walk you through it. But yeah, it's a great question. All right, we are 10 minutes away. We're going to break here then if there are no more questions. Next up, I saw some chatter in the chat about the next session with Carrie Hoffman. Carrie was on our panel this morning and is incredible. She's talking about leveraging the power of custom fields, how custom fields become your data set. So using custom fields to report on things is, I assume, what it's going to look like. So I'm really excited for that chat. But take your time, go get a drink, get some food, take a bio break, whatever you need to do. We'll see you in the next session. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for your energy. Thank you for your questions, and we'll see you shortly.